My once happy married life fell apart quickly. After 2 years of marriage, my feelings for my husband, John, remained strong. I devoted every day to him, striving to stay attractive and look my best, hoping to keep his gaze fixed on me. But then I discovered that John was having an affair. One afternoon, I was under the impression that John was at work, but he unexpectedly came home with his lover and divorce papers in hand. His lover sat there impassively while John explained that he had rekindled his feelings for her during a trip we took last year. I was stunned. Our honeymoon had been postponed due to last-minute changes, and I had paid for the trip with a bonus I received. John revealed that his ex-girlfriend, now his lover, had reached out to him during our honeymoon, and that was when he realized his lingering feelings for her. "What on earth are you talking about? We were on our honeymoon," I said, trying to make sense of his words. "There's no point in saying this now." "I love her," John insisted. "She needs me too. It's just that we were late in realizing our feelings for each other. I do like you, but she is the one I truly love. You need to understand." How could I possibly understand? How did he think I would just sign the divorce papers? What about my feelings? John, looking unsure, said, "You should find someone better. You probably don't want to stay in this house anymore either. You can stay until you pack your things and leave in about a week." His detachment was like a cold slap. He had proposed to me, and now he was the one abandoning me. He took no responsibility for our marriage and left me without an apology. Resigned and heartbroken, I signed the divorce papers. John and his lover left the house, telling me they would return next week, so I needed to be out by then. The abruptness of it all left me numb. I didn't even cry. I felt more deceived than betrayed. The overwhelming sense of self-pity was unbearable. The next day, I asked a friend to help me pack up my belongings. I moved back into my parents' house where I could regroup. As a nurse with a stable income, I had been covering most of our living expenses, so the shock of John's affair and the divorce was compounded by the financial strain. I won't have to pay rent anymore, which is a small relief in this difficult situation. I've decided where I'll be moving next and am in the process of packing up my things once again, preparing to leave my parents' house. As I'm busy with the packing, Kathy, my mother, informs me that John is here. It's raining outside, so I let him in. My mother looks at me apologetically, her eyes full of concern. What on earth does my ex-husband want now? I wonder aloud. He's made it clear that I'm not the love of his life, so I doubt he's here to ask me to come back. Is he after money? Although it feels wrong to assume that, considering his complaints about working and his spending habits during our marriage, it seems like a natural conclusion. Maybe he's forgotten something of his at my place. I decide to head down to the living room to find out what he wants. "What do you want?" I ask, trying to mask my frustration. My father's voice is edged with anger, but John remains unnervingly calm as he replies, "I would like to speak with your daughter." His calm demeanor, given the circumstances, is infuriating. "What do you want?" "I'm busy right now," I say, trying to keep my irritation in check as I open the door. I'm taken aback when I see his new wife sitting next to him, as if she has every right to be there. "Why is she here? This is my parents' house. What were you thinking?" It's beyond insulting to have his former mistress, now his wife, show up here. I can't believe she thought it was appropriate to come along. "Calm down," John says, his attitude only making things worse. The woman remains silent, her presence adding to the absurdity of the situation. "I'd like to get this over with as quickly as possible," I snap, my frustration clear. John's expression turns serious. "This is important. We haven't discussed the division of property yet. I'm here to claim my share of the money." Just as I suspected. John seems oddly eager. "Yes, that's right. Of course. I knew he would show up eventually, so I was prepared." I took out my purse and handed John 30 cents. "Here, this is your share," I said, placing the 3 dimes in his hand. John and his new wife stared at the coins in disbelief. "What is this?" John demanded, flinging the coins to the floor. His new wife chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. "Are you kidding me? This isn't property. Stop fooling around." Both of them were red-faced with anger. I watched calmly, knowing that these coins were all that remained of my savings. John's eyes narrowed. "This isn't right. You know there's more. You had $200,000. I want my $100,000 now." He waved his hands in frustration, while his wife nodded in agreement. I stared at them, unmoved by their demands. "You're the one who said you wanted this over quickly, so take the money and leave," I said. John's reaction was explosive. He started screaming and throwing things around the room, revealing the side of him I hadn't seen before. His behavior showed me his true colors, and I was relieved to have left him. The noise and commotion attracted my dad, who had been out of the room, and my brother, who had just arrived home. My dad, though initially frozen by the chaos, quickly stepped in. He grabbed John, restraining him and preventing him from causing any more damage. I quickly filled my brother, a lawyer, in on the situation. Given his knowledge of the divorce, he grasped the scenario immediately. John's new wife overheard our conversation and realizing John was dealing with a lawyer, she exclaimed, "I didn't know your ex-wife had a lawyer in the family." Her eyes widened in shock as she shouted at John. I was perplexed by their relentless pursuit of money. Even though I had no desire to engage with John, I decided to ask him, "Why do you need the money so desperately? You divorced me for this woman, claiming she was your dream. You chose her over me and wanted me to leave." John sighed. "Yes, but the division of property is crucial. The house we're in now was originally the one you and Ella lived in together. We want to build a new home for ourselves. We're planning to have children, so we need a car and want to go on a nice vacation. I want to fulfill the responsibilities any new husband would take on, which is why I'm here. It's tough for me, but it's important." His reasons sounded selfish and entitled. I wondered if he was trying to make excuses to justify his demands. "Okay, so you didn't want to come here just to make amends," I said, resigned. "I don't want him here either. He doesn't seem to grasp how awful his actions were and he shows no remorse. I financially supported our marriage, so handing over my share is the least he can do to acknowledge his debt to his ex-wife." Did he really just say that he supported me financially? I wonder, feeling stunned. Perhaps I misheard. John had no desire to work. He would rush home as soon as possible to play online games and would take days off whenever he felt like it, often pretending to be ill. He was uninterested in earning more money and exploited the fact that I was a well-paid nurse, covering all our living expenses. He'd occasionally hand me $100, but it felt more like he was an unemployed boyfriend cohabiting in his girlfriend's apartment, contributing nothing. John never did any housework, and while I might have understood if he had appreciated my efforts, his claim that he financially supported our marriage is incredibly disappointing. I was the one covering all the expenses. "How can you say that you supported our marriage?" I asked, my frustration mounting. "Based on your logic, you should actually return the 30 cents I just gave you." "What are you talking about?" John replies, bewildered. "You really don't know anything, do you?" "I'm sure you were excited about my savings, but I have some bad news for you," I say, remaining calm as John and his new wife glare at me. My brother, Henry, steps in to speak on my behalf. "Excuse me, I'm Henry Thompson, and I'm a lawyer. Please allow me to explain on behalf of my sister." Henry continues, "Only the savings accumulated during the marriage are subject to division. Any money saved before the marriage is considered personal property. My sister saved the $200,000 before the marriage, so it remains her separate property and cannot be divided between you two." He pauses for effect, then adds, "According to the records, you have only 60 cents left in your share account. Therefore, your share amounts to 30 cents. Complaining about this amount is pointless." Henry's voice is steady and authoritative as he concludes, "It seems my sister was saving up for your future, but I believe that money has been spent on the woman sitting next to you." John and his wife are stunned by Henry's calm explanation. Trying to regain control, John protests, "What you said was Catherine's brother. But now, let me speak as her attorney." Henry nods, and John continues, "My client is requesting compensation." "Why haven't you made the full payment?" I ask, frustrated. I have requested compensation, but John had only made a partial payment. I needed to understand why the remainder had not been settled. That's why I officially asked my brother to intervene. Although my actual lawyer is his colleague, we hadn't anticipated John's sudden appearance today. "So, Henry is representing me in this matter." With a steely gaze, Henry addresses John and his wife, who fall silent under his scrutiny. "You're asking for a share even though you were the one who had the affair and caused the divorce. It doesn't make sense for you to claim any amount. It appears you've been spending the money my sister saved for both of you. My sister's request is that you return the full amount you owe her, in addition to the compensation." John's wife protests, "That's impossible." She tries to calm him down as he stands up and kicks the table, visibly enraged. "We can't continue this. Let's stop." Henry remains unyielding, mentioning the possibility of going to court. At this point, John seems to give up and begins to speak honestly. After the divorce, I was fired from my job, John confesses. My wife is unemployed too, and we've been borrowing money to get by. We've accumulated so much debt that we can't afford the compensation. When we were desperate for a solution, we thought about your savings, hoping you might give us half if we brought up property division. I am stunned into silence when John and his wife suddenly change their attitude and beg for my help. My brother shakes his head subtly, signaling that I shouldn't listen to them. I feel no sympathy for their pleas and firmly tell them they still owe me the compensation and the savings. I then ask my brother and father to see them out. The past few hours have felt like a whirlwind. My mother returns to the room with a sigh of relief and starts tidying up while my father, fuming with anger, helps her. My brother places a comforting hand on my back. You did nothing wrong, he says reassuringly. You should feel confident about today and the divorce. He insists we need to ensure they pay the compensation and immediately calls his colleague for assistance. All of us at the law firm are on your side, he assures me. Exhausted, I lean into my mother's hug. You did great today, she says. Let's all go out for steak tonight to lift our spirits. I gratefully collapse into her embrace. My dad and brother agree to the dinner, and we enjoy a wonderful meal together that night. Later, with the help of my brother, his colleague, and the law firm, the compensation and savings are successfully recovered. John and his wife struggle to find stable jobs and end up working multiple part-time positions. It's clear they won't be buying a house, a car, or going on vacation anytime soon. They seem to have gained a newfound appreciation for me. When we cross paths on the street, they greet me politely, and I feel a sense of relief seeing that they've made at least a small improvement in their lives. As for me, I am now in a steady relationship with the attorney who handled my case. Henry is thrilled, saying this man is perfect for me. 1 year after the divorce, I plan to introduce my new boyfriend to my parents, confident they will be happy for me. Reflecting on the past, I realize that while I didn't fully understand my ex-husband's claim about the love of his life, I now feel that maybe this new man truly is the love of my life.